Welcome back to AthsTV, the Australian Track and Field Championships from Monday, live on KO, 56 hours, the most ever streamed here in Australia for athletics in Australia. So KO, Monday, Australian Track and Field Championships. You will not miss a beat, doesn't matter where you are. Let's talk some track in the senior world, and we'll start with the 800 metres and the 1500 metres for men, and we'll combine them because there is a little bit of questioning, I guess, about who's going to run in both the 15 or the 8 or vice versa. We'll start with Luke Matthews, who was on the show last week with us. What does he run in, 8 or 15?
Well, so that's the thing. You can't actually... Normally you could do, because it would be a heat of the 8, heat of the 15, final. But because of what happened last year with the Commonwealth Game Trials, it went from 5 heats of the 8 to an A and a B, and obviously Joey Deng dropped the bomb in the B final and threw a spanner in the whole system. It now goes 800-metre heat on the Thursday, then the 1500-metre heat only 50 minutes before the 800-metre semi. So you're probably not going to be able to do both. And then the 8 final, then the 15 final. So he'll have to make a decision. He said last week that he was going to make a decision. And no one knows still.
Well, he said within the week. Yeah. Well, here we are a week later and he hasn't told us yet. What would, if you're Luke Matthews, what do you think he should run, 8 or 15?
Oh, look, it's really tough. I think what he did in Perth really stamped his authority on that 800-metre spot. And so then he might be tempted, because he's also such a lovely 1500-metre runner, to see what he could do in the 1500 and see if he could get that, at least the box ticked of winning the Nationals. So then he can choose. I think he's in a really tough position because he's so good at both events. Yeah, it's a nice position to be in, but sometimes when you get to the major and you've qualified for two events and you have to make that choice, you get really nervous about making the wrong choice. You don't want to make that wrong choice and you don't want to get to the end of it and go, oh, I should have. So, but I think if I was Luke, I'd probably focus on the 800, because that's where he is so good at the moment.
Well, if he gets to the 1500, he's going to have to beat, of course, Ryan Gregson, who's been... Well, he's almost had a mortgage on this particular event, and Olympic finalist. And when it comes to the Nationals, as we looked at him a couple of weeks ago, winning over 1500 metres, he's the man to beat. Not to say he can't be beaten, but he's the man to beat over the near four-lapper. Yeah,
so he didn't have it all his own way there. Rory Hunter, who was third at the Com Games trials, second there, and obviously, you know, McSwain and Matt Ramsden coming off World Cross straight off the plane to the national champs.
Will they run?
Well, that's the thing. It depends on obviously how they pull up from the hard 10K slog.
Depends how they get through the Viking pit, I guess.
But they're coached by Nick Beddoe, who also coaches Ryan Gregson, who in that race that we just saw, he had just got off the plane from European indoors races on the Tuesday night before the Saturday of competing. So I love that about the MTC guys, how they will actually compete. So I would probably assume that they're going to compete if their names are on the start list.
Well, yeah, and Stu's the only one with a qualifier over the 1500 metres. That time that he went indoors when he got the indoor record. So, you know, all he has to do is win it, and he's effectively secured his spot.
Yeah.
We've spoken a lot about the 100 metres as well. Not only the men's relay team that was so fast, but the fact is that last week Rowan Browning runs a 10:08. Jack Hale 2 PBs in a row after he told us last week it took him 3 years to be able to get one of them. The depth in Australian sprinting's at its highest for a long period of time. So the men's 100 metres is going to be a crack field, and we expect some fast times. And it's exciting, isn't it, when we see the Blue Ribbon event have such a deep, exciting young talent here in Australia.
Well, exactly. So that relay team that ran in Brisbane, that doesn't have to be the team that runs at Yokohama. Obviously, Trey Williams, he's won the last 2 national titles, went 10-10 at the Com Games. He will feature in the 100 metres. He has had a bit of a niggle, but he said he'll run with one leg, so he'll be out there. And you can't discount Tom Gamble as well. He's pretty much the captain of the relay team. He ran the back leg at the World Champs in 2017. This is going to be a first hit out of the season, so if he could do anything up and near his best, around that 10-3, he could still feature in that team. And then you throw in Eddie Nikita, representing ACT/New Zealand, who could just throw another massive spanner in the works, so he could be crowned national champion.
Intrigue and drama is always at its best in sport, and the fact that Jack Hale had been, while not being dominant, had been probably the dominant force when it comes to finishing first earlier in the Coles Summer Super Series, and then Rowan Browning goes out and lays down the gauntlet last week. It adds that little bit of X factor too, doesn't it?
But that's also what draws out the best athlete, and we need them to practice head-to-head battles because they're going to get to a major championship in the men's 100, and let's not kid ourselves, they run darn fast through the rounds. And so it's just the perfect practice for them to get prepared for being over there at the championships.
Someone who probably doesn't need a great deal of practice when it comes to World Championships, Olympic Games, whatever it might be, is Sally Pearson, and we expect to see her back next week in the 100-metre hurdles. And it doesn't matter how long someone hasn't been off the track for, when you've got Olympic gold medals in your back pocket and gold medals and everything that's worth having. It's so exciting for us fans.
Oh, exactly, and she'll expect to run the Com Games or the World Champs qualifier, in the heat. She's done it before. She'll roll out a 12.7 straight up. And that's obviously something that the other girls want to get. 12.98 is the target. But this is an event where we can send 4 athletes to the World Champs. So it's normally 3, but because Sally's the reigning world champion, she gets a wild card. So we can send 3 more. So if we get 3 other girls under 12.98, we can have 4 in the field, and that's never happened for Australia at World Champs.
And it's not ridiculous because we do have potential behind Sally. They're obviously not at Sally's level, but we do have potential to crack that 12.98.
Yeah, Jenica's already run 13.05. You've got Celeste Mucci just stepping up, and Brianna Bean's actually done it. Windy, but she's gone low 13, so there is a real chance.
Yeah. We speak about the depth in the men's 100. The women's 400's similar right now with a bunch of girls who are running really, really fast, and with those spots, as always, anytime there's a major championship on the horizon, it adds that excitement. But this 400-metre women's depth is actually pretty exciting as well.
Yeah, it's one of those events. We can see Annalise Ruby in the 1 pace winning this race, but the tables were turned at the New South Wales Championships where Bandiri O'Boya, who finished second there, beat Annalise. So it's one of those races where I think they haven't cracked 52 seconds for this year, which is where you want them to see heading towards international races. But they're so competitive and their season's bests are really close. So it's a race that we're going to be watching just going, you're not sure who's going to win it. There's quality in the field and there's class and there's relay spots on the line. But there's also a national title on the line. I don't think... I mean, it'd be hard to pick who's going to win that race. Well,
and again, they're already qualified for Yokohama as well. And you throw in Ellie Beer, who's doing the under-17s, and Lauren Wells, who did a PB only the other week, you know, running in the 400 hurdles. So you've almost could, you know, give them 2 spots already. So they're really only running off for 4 spots, and that makes it really cutthroat.
Lynchy and I were going to be the 2 to discuss the 800 metres, but we'll leave it up to Thames and Lewis to talk to us about the women's 800 metres this weekend.
Well, the women's 800 is one of those events where, you know, it was slow for a little while, and then all of a sudden we have some real talented juniors coming through, but then we've also had Katrina Bissett at a Victorian Milers Club just lay down the gauntlet. She beat Georgia Griffiths and Morgan Mitchell, and she ran 2:01.27. It was a huge personal best, but the thing I like about Katrina is she's one of the athletes this season that has actually been quite gutsy, and she has attacked that first lap at the state champs, and she's been rewarded for being gutsy and running it like that. The thing I'd like to see with these ladies is their 400 seasons best are all over 55 seconds, and that makes it a little bit difficult when you're talking about trying to do 2 flat and qualifiers. But it'll be interesting to see if they run just for the place or if one of them's going to go out there and really target that world championship time. But I think Carly Thomas is a super talent, and she'd be the one that would be hard to look past.
What are you most looking forward to? Is it the 800 or is it something else?
Oh, look, I think I'd probably have to say the 800 because I really like watching these ladies run, and I'm really looking forward to the contest, and it'll show us who the quality mental competitor who can get there at the start line, know that it's a great race, and then and step up when it counts.
Lynchy?
Oh, it's just the sprints. It's always the sprints, 1, 2 and 4. I want to see actually what Rowan, and if Hale does the 200, what they can do after their great ones this year, what can they do in a 2?
It all starts Monday. Don't forget 56 hours of streaming on KO from Monday, the Australian Track and Field Championships. If you can't be there, you got no excuse. You won't miss a beat. Jump on KO and watch it from Monday.